The rain that night wasn't just water. It was a curtain, a shroud, washing the world clean of everything but my purpose. I sat in my car, the engine off, the wipers still. Each drop on the windshield fractured the glow of the street lamp outside his house, turning it into a dozen bleeding stars. 20 years, 2 whole decades I'd carried the memory of my brother, Michael, like a shard of glass in my heart. And in that house, warm and lit and oblivious, was the man who put it there. Leo wasn't always a monster. To my 15-year-old eyes, he was a god. He was Michael's best friend, the charismatic older brother I never had. He had a laugh that could fill a room and a smile that promised adventure. The night it happened, they were 18, invincible. A party got out of hand, a dare, a stolen car. Leo was behind the wheel, high on cheap beer and cheaper bravado. Michael was in the passenger seat, laughing. They never found the other car. The police said it was a hit and run, but we knew. Leo, pulled from the wreck with little more than a broken arm, swore he couldn't remember a thing. The investigation fizzled. The community, eager to protect one of its good boys from a tragic mistake, moved on. My parents shattered, their marriage crumbling under the weight of a grief that had no outlet. They died within a few years of each other, their hearts just giving up. I was left alone with the ghost of my brother and the smiling face of his killer, who went on to become a respected small-town accountant, a pillar of the community. Leo the libel, he'd built a life on the grave of my family. He had a wife, a daughter, a neatly trimmed lawn. I had a hole in my soul that nothing could fill. For years, my revenge was a quiet, patient thing. I didn't stalk him with a knife or a gun that was too quick, too impersonal. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the loss he'd inflicted. I wanted his world to dissolve, grain by grain, just as mine had. So, I became a ghost in the machine of his life. I moved back to town, took a boring job, and watched. I learned his routines, his secrets. And Leo, the esteemed accountant, was full of secrets. It took me 3 years to find the key. It was embezzling. Not from some faceless corporation, but from the town's Veterans Fund, a charity he managed. A charity built on the memory of local boys who never came home. The irony was so thick I could taste it, metallic and bitter on my tongue. He was stealing from the ghosts of other people's brothers. I didn't go to the police. That would have been a clean fall. I wanted a collapse. I crafted my plan with the precision of a watchmaker. Anonymous emails to the fund's major donors, hinting at financial irregularities. Misdirected bank statements sent to the town mayor. A whisper campaign started in the darkest corners of online forums where the town's gossips lurked. I planted the seeds of his destruction and watered them with his own greed. The tension in the town became a physical thing. I could feel it in the supermarket and the coffee shop. People looked at Leo differently. The warm greetings grew colder, the smiles tighter. His wife started looking strained. His daughter, a sweet girl named Chloe who was about the age Michael had been, began walking home from school with her head down. A part of me, a part I'd tried to bury, ached for her. But the memory of Michael's empty bed was a louder scream. The final piece came from the past. Digging through old boxes in my parents' attic, I found Michael's camera. It was an old, cheap thing. On a whim, I managed to get the film-developed film that had been inside for 20 years. The last picture was a selfie, taken just minutes before the crash. Michael, his arm around Leo, both of them grinning, young and stupid and alive. And in the background, clear as day, on the car's dashboard, was a nearly full bottle of whiskey. Leo hadn't just been drinking beer. He'd been lying for 20 years. That was the dagger. Not the embezzlement, not the ruined reputation. It was the proof of his cowardice. The night of the town council meeting was the night I chose for the curtain to fall. The community hall was packed, buzzing with a nervous energy. Leo was at the front table, pale but defiant, surrounded by spreadsheets and his lawyer. He was trying to explain, to lie his way out of it again. I stood at the back, in the shadows, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to break free. When he finished his weak, stammering defense, a fragile silence fell. That's when I stepped forward. I didn't shout, I didn't scream. My voice was low, but it carried to every corner of the dead silent room. "You forgot something, Leo," I said. He looked up, his eyes wide with confusion and then dawning horror as he recognized me. I held up the photograph. "You said you only had a few beers. You said you couldn't remember." I turned the photo to the crowd, letting them see the truth. "You lied. You killed my brother drunk, and you've been lying to everyone, including yourself, ever since." The gasp that went through the room was a single, unified sound. I saw it in their faces. Then the final, irrevocable shift. The pillow was not just cracked, it was made of rot. Leo's face collapsed. It wasn't just the exposure of his crime, it was the annihilation of the story he'd built his life upon. The embezzlement was a sin, but this was a damnation. He didn't say a word, he just stared, his mouth slightly open. As the world he'd carefully constructed imploded around him in a heap of shame and shattered reputation, I turned and walked out, the rain welcoming me back into the night. There were no charges read, no dramatic arrest. That would come later. My revenge was complete. It wasn't in his arrest or his eventual prison sentence. It wasn't that single, silent moment when he saw the ghost in that photograph and knew, finally, that he could never outrun it. Some debts aren't paid with money or time, they're paid in memory, and the interest is collected in blood.